Okay, we're live. We're here with Barry White. Hello. Just kidding. Just kidding. What's up, man? How are you?
Oh,
I just
the drain.
talking normal into, microphones as we sit here. We are stoked because we're getting a podcast going. And that's kind of what we want to talk about here for everybody that might be tuning in to the new Fuse 3 podcast. But what's the intent of this? Why were you like, hey, we need to record?
It's about education. There's kind of societal skill gap in understanding the world around us when it comes to the digital spaces and cybersecurity. And even though there's a lot of talk of it out there, I think the approachability of some of this information is lacking.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I want to achieve here is to give people some practical guidance, break down some concepts that they can understand clearly and apply in their own lives, businesses, and just be more successful and safer in the digital space.
Well, and I think in your MSP space, I don't think a lot of companies do that. They will just write stuff. They're not really thinking about how to get the word out and taking the time to actually explain. They want to prospects and clients, but just for the mass, I don't think a lot of people do it. They really don't. So this is good that you guys are going and chatting. And I think the intent is to break down what's going on real world today. Threats, solutions. You guys talk to people left and right every day. You're like, well, shoot, let's talk about that one thing, right?
Yeah. So we get exposed to a lot of different things out there in the cyberspace. And ultimately, a lot of people don't actually have the understanding. So someone who's technical can come in and say a lot of words and try to create value in their own efforts or services, but not really create an understanding of why it's important, what's needed, and kind of what the outcome should look like. Right. So ultimately, this is another effort to get some understanding. So there's a concept that is often used, and it's called FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And inherently, those things that you don't understand are more prone to fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Now, there's a healthy level of fear that I would call kind of a respect for certain things. And that's the goal here, is to move you from fear, uncertainty, and doubt to say, hey, look, this is something that I need to pay attention to, and why? What are the implications of it? What are the parts and pieces of it? So you can make good decisions about how to run your life or your business.
Your business, yeah. And this is geared towards business owners, but you can take some personal stuff.
Sure. And there's a pretty big overlap.
Huge.
Because businesses are comprised of people and people have lives. A big part of their life is business. And so the Venn diagram is actually relatively tight.
The FUD, it's funny because I hear that and I go, a lot of people will go ostrich and they'll just go, don't understand it, fear, uncertainty, doubt. I'm just going to put my head in the sand. And when it pops up and I have to deal with it, then I will.
Yeah.
Like our health.
Yeah, there's a lot of that goes on, but because these are complex, right? These are complex topics, and they're very intimidating to those who haven't put a lot of time in. But the reality is, not everyone can or will.
Yeah.
And so, being able to get a pretty good grip on some of these concepts, delta between the difference between, we'll say, avoidance and enough information to make a good decision, can be the difference in success and failure, right? Anyone can go stick their head in the sand. Anyone could ignore it. And then they just get blindsided by this Mack truck.
Yeah.
And they go,
oh, crap.
Right.
Now you're Googling, what do I do?
Right. Or just
AI.
Right. Doing things like filing insurance claims or whatever, and then having someone else tell you what you did wrong.
Yeah. Right.
Ultimately, business owners have an obligation to their business, their own interest, to have some level of understanding of all of the things that might impact their business. These are not difficult concepts when you break them down to their core. The mechanics of how to deal with them can be quite complicated. Having enough understanding to make a good decision is really the key here. You're not going to be going and doing the work necessarily, right? There are professionals who understand it better. But let's take something like construction, for example. You want to build a house. You want to repair your roof, right?
Paint your baseboards like I did last night.
Sure. Some of those things, like painting your baseboards, pretty straightforward, right? Replacing your roof, not so much. You have the hammer. You can buy all the materials. You know where your roof is, right? But are you going to know those intricate details of what's going to keep it from leaking? Are you going to know those techniques that are going to make sure that it's durable? Are you going to make sure that all of the codes and regulations are followed? Probably not. But
that's why I call you.
Right, and that's
The
my
general
point.
contractor.
But when you go to look for a roofer,
Yeah.
there's thousands of roofers out there.
Mhm.
How do you know which one's going to do a good job?
Mm.
Well, they have things like licensing boards, right?
Mhm.
You become a general contractor, something like this. Testimonials, right? You can go look at some of their work sometimes. These are the types of things that, again, if you have a basic understanding of, hey, all of the shingles on your roof should be laying flat. Well, if you go and look at a roofer's job or pictures and they're not,
Yeah, there's one that's not.
you know they're not doing a good job,
Right.
right?
Right.
So
Hmm.
having enough information to know, like if you didn't know, maybe you thought shingles were supposed to stand straight up.
You just didn't know.
You just didn't know.
Yeah. I thought I was supposed to click on every email that came through
Right.
and every link and just to verify everything. Shoot, I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to.
Right. HR sent me this thing.
But that ain't HR from a Gmail.
Right.
Come on, Lieutenant Dan.
Right.
You know what? And I totally realized we didn't even introduce you. Your name is James,
It is.
and tell us about your background. I mean, tell us more about you, because
Oh,
you're gonna be the MC on this bad boy.
oh boy. Heavy responsibility. So strictly in IT terms,
Mhm.
I've been in IT for 27 years now.
Mm.
Started off as a help desk technician, worn many hats, as a lot of IT people do. IT is a very broad term, much like construction. You have
Yeah.
your roofers, your framers, your plumbers, your concrete, all these different things. And so I've worn a number of those hats. And my current role with Fuse 3 as a member of the leadership team is to build out cybersecurity and compliance program. So I am a certified information systems security professional,
Mm.
CISSP. And
That you got that. That's that big old test you took, right?
yeah, yeah.
Oof.
So did that about a year ago. It was a significant effort, but well worth it in the aspect of rounding out. So you do a thing a lot, but sometimes it's those little details in between that you might not have clarity on or be
Yeah.
fully familiar with techniques and things
Mhm.
like that. These types of certifications give you that commonality in language and then kind of fill in some of the gaps. So I've been working with IT systems and trying to bring better security to our clients and to just broader society at large, in part because I've seen the impact that not doing these things can have.
Do you in your let's just say current role, do you actually do the things or do you oversee the things that are being done? Because there's some part of like, are you in the weeds or are you on top of the weeds?
Yeah. So a little both. So
Which one do you like?
um on top of the weeds.
Yeah.
So
Strategic
I think
planner.
at some point everyone who's in the weeds should be on top of the weeds, but you have to go through the weeds to get there
Yeah.
and to do it the best.
That's what year 0 to 19 was for, but now you're in 20.
Yeah, 2027.
26.
But
Oh,
but yeah,
okay, yeah, 7 years on, yeah.
the weeds part is essential to kind of the oversight part.
Well, and that's the value of where you're at in your career in life is that somebody's gotta watch what's going on now.
Yeah.
And what's coming and threat assessments and all that kind of stuff. And I think as we were talking in some strategy meetings is that's what you wanted to get across by doing this show is like you being the proverbial CTO, CFO, whatever, an organization, you're busy doing all your stuff. It's like, who's out there on the, top of the crow's nest of the ship looking for the rocky shore? And right. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what you do specifically there, right?
Yeah, for the most part. So really I do the less glamorous aspect or the value of the less glamorous aspect has become more and more critical.
Mm-hmm.
The traditional, we'll say, kind of evolution of IT security was like trust
Mm-hmm.
initially, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
just going to do my thing and, nobody's really interested in what I'm doing. And what we found is that that's not true at all.
No, not at all.
And, back from the earliest days of computing, if we're looking at even things like phone freaking and things like that, right? There are people who do it for just general interest. There are people who have a very specific purpose.
I don't even know what you just said. What's
Phone
phone
freaking.
freaking?
So there's
I call it my
back in the
freaking
day
phone.
of analog phones, you could play a tone that would essentially allow you to call long distance for free.
Oh,
And
I remember that.
yeah, the
That's what that was called?
yeah, phone freaking. Uh-huh.
Showing my age.
And essentially people figured this out and then would like sell access to long distance calling
So then the
to
AT&Ts would be like, you can't do that.
but that was one of the most, kind of fundamental, widely kind of visible hacking,
Yeah.
type things, right? So, essentially, AT&T, excuse me, had this system, which was, a great system, but had a flaw in it that somebody could abuse, and somebody abused it.
And they did, and you found it. Or
And
well, not you, but
so then as things progressed, people started thinking about, what else can we get into? What else
mhm.
can we do? And it caused a lot of problems out there, a
Yeah.
lot of data loss, data leakage, just system intrusions, things like this, right? And so they started to try to prevent this and
Yeah.
put countermeasures in place, right? Mitigations, if you will.
Mhm.
And, that was relatively successful. And, this thing just kept evolving, this cat and mouse game between people who wanted something and people who had something, and the kind of tug of war with trying to keep them out and your stuff in
Mhm.
just really ramped up. Generally, the people trying to get in are half a step ahead,
Yeah.
very skilled innovators. So you need more than just a kind of baseline level of protection these days. It is a whole ecosystem that is required to keep the things that you value yours, and not have other people take them from you.
Well, that sounds like an example of what everybody's gonna get on these episodes.
Yeah.
We're gonna go down dirty and figure something out. So, you know, in talking, I wanna reiterate, for someone that's listened to this, is that we're gonna pick something out of what's happening now and discuss it at length. Or we might just give you tidbits and, one of those shows could be 10 minutes long because you just want to get the
Yeah.
information out. So I think that's kind of what it is. And then I'm excited too because we're going to have guests on, right?
Right.
There's some people that are within Fuse. You guys work with partners, right? Why not have them talk about what it is that their system does? So we can almost kind of not quite product reviewy a little bit, but a little more in depth, what I think would be beneficial.
Yeah. There's just so many different flavors of everything that's happening out there,
Oh, it's so
in the
fast.
world, and it does change very quickly. So
Yeah.
a lot of times people learn from what other people are doing, right?
Hmm.
I think that's a great way to understand the world and the context in which you're doing your things, and maybe even pick up a few things that you might be able to leverage in your own space in addition to just general, what I would call kind of hygiene,
Hmm.
cyber hygiene.
And what our intention is we'll be breaking down different industries, different verticals. We'll be going into situations, and then just topics in the news, just what's coming out and how you guys are interpreting it.
Yep.
Yeah, awesome. All right, well there you have it, everybody. Thank you for hanging out on our unnamed channel yet, but we're getting there.
Getting there.
That's awesome. All right, man. We'll see you on the next one.
Yep.